Hey there, I'm Amy from thecrazycraftlady.com. Welcome back to another Christmas in July crafting video. This time we are using one of my all-time favorite Dollar Tree craft supplies, and that is the coveted faux tin tile. It's a 12 by 12 little fake tile sheet. They come single sheets for $1.25 now. They have an adhesive backing on them that you can remove and then just use this front faux tile piece, paint it, make Christmas ornaments with it, make Christmas DIY decor. We're going to do all of it. Let's get making. Start with some plain unfinished wood ornaments. These came from Hobby Lobby. Just cut the little hanger off. We're going to replace it with something different. And then I grabbed a faux tin tile piece. This one I had pre-painted, but just lay the ornament on the back, trace it out with a Sharpie, and then cut out your ornament just inside that Sharpie line so that you have a perfect fit of the tin tile piece over your wooden ornament. Then you'll want to mark a hole where the hanger is, and I used a mini hole punch here to make room for a hanger. And then, because I had pre-painted the front tile piece white, I just painted the back of the ornament white as well. This is plain white Rust-Oleum chalk paint. I have a quart of it that I've been using for well over a year. It's kind of my go-to white chalk paint. Paint that all up, let everything dry, and then just some Eileen's tacky glue here, or really any craft glue. Pretty generous with the glue though, and then set that tile piece right in place and set that aside for the glue to dry. Then I decided to distress the tile a little bit to give it a little bit more dimension, so I just cut a piece of a clean dish sponge and dipped it in some black chalk paint and gently brushed it over the ridges in that faux tile. You can add as much or as little distressing as you like. But then once the chalk paint had dried, I just added a little hanger and embellishment. So this is just some faux pine from Dollar Tree. Tie a piece of twine in a knot around the end of the greenery there, and then run the twine through the hole in the ornament. Secure it in place with a knot, and then make a hanger loop with another double knot at the top, and then you're in business. A couple of little cute little tin tile Christmas ornaments. Alright, so you start with your little faux tile piece and measure on the back the height of one of your tin cans. Just mark it off with a Sharpie, and then connect the lines with a ruler, and then cut. So I had my 9-year-old helper here. This craft is so easy, even a 9-year-old can make it. And then after you cut along that line, add some E6000 glue around the top and the bottom of the tin can, and then peel off the backing off that sticky adhesive on the tile, and then roll the tile around the tin can, and then secure it with like some binder clips at the top, and then some rubber bands around the middle section. And then let that sit for a few hours until the glue completely dries. I repeated the process on a larger tin can, and it had a little section in the back where the tin can was exposed because the tile wasn't long enough. So I decided that was just going to be the back of my project. It's not going to look beautiful, perfect, but I don't know, what can you do? And so I just covered that back part with a little snippet piece of that faux tile, and then set everything aside until the glue dried. And then I just came in with some white chalk paint and a brush. So I wanted to kind of distress the silver metal a little bit. So I just brushed back and forth with the dry brush, and then I pounced on top of it, like up and down, to get rid of any brush strokes. And it made like a nice weathered textured finish. And then for the final step, I just took some gold acrylic craft paint and I painted along the top rim of the can. It doesn't have to be a perfectly straight line. In fact, it'll actually look better if you're kind of like you make it like kind of rigid, so it looks like it's a little bit worn or that like the paint is dripping down a little bit. And then once that gold paint is dried, you can just pop a little mini faux Christmas tree. I have had these for a while. They just like, they always have them at the craft store at holiday time, like little mini trees that come with some sort of cute base, like wrapped in burlap or something. Use whatever you want. Just pop that in there. And that's it. I kept this super easy, super minimal, just cute little miniature Christmas tree, little holder things, an alternative to like a tree skirt. All right, if you have followed my YouTube channel or my blog for any amount of time, you know I'm a big fan of the reverse canvas craft. So I just took a stretched artist canvas. This one came from the craft store. I think it's 8x10. And I took my pen blade or a razor blade, and you're just gonna remove the canvas from the wooden frame. So I just score all the way around the perimeter of that frame. It can be kind of tricky. I've done this probably 20 times and I'm still clearly not perfect at it. It takes a minute, but just remove that whole stretched canvas piece there. And then you're left with this wooden frame, which I just stained with a plain gel stain. This is Americana gel stain in the color oak. Just brush on a coat with a 1-inch flat paintbrush, wipe away any excess with a scrub rag or a paper towel if necessary, and then set that aside to dry. Then I grabbed my faux tin tile piece here from Dollar Tree and peel away that back cover as well as that adhesive backing. You want to throw all that away. You don't need any of that sticky backing. It's just going to cause problems for you. And then paint it white. So plain white Rust-Oleum chalk paint, which is my go-to for all of these crafts, a pouncer brush, and then, you know, put on a movie or listen to a podcast because it's going to take you a few minutes to paint this whole tile piece white and then set it aside to dry. Then once everything is dried, you can trace your wooden frame onto the tin tile piece. So I just used a mechanical pencil here. And then you're going to cut inside that line so that the tile piece fits right on the back of that wooden frame without any part of the tile hanging out, so there's no overhang. But you don't want to cut it so small that it like slips through the center of the wooden frame. And then I just used a combination of E6000 and hot glue, which I sound like a broken record. The E6000 gives you the permanent hold that you need over time, but the hot glue is kind of instant hold so you can move on with the next step of your craft project. Just exercise caution so that you don't melt the tin tile because the faux tin tile piece is actually plastic. And then smooth that tile piece right onto the back of your wooden frame and you have this reverse canvas piece that then we're just going to embellish with a little wreath that I got at Target a few years ago on the dollar spot and these holiday bells that I made out of Easter eggs and cereal boxes a few weeks ago. Just kind of hang them with twine at the top of the wooden frame there. And then I just simply secured everything in the back with some white duct tape or whatever you got. But that's it, a little reverse canvas framed holiday wreath with gold bells.
Alright, so I started by just printing out some outlines of a couple of holiday shapes. I will link to this free printable PDF if you want to download your own and print it off. Otherwise, use whatever shapes you like or a stencil. And then I just cut these out really quick. Didn't have to be perfect, but just cut them out so that you have something to trace. And then I started with my faux tin tile, and these are kind of weird because it has this adhesive backing sheet, but it's only attached to the tile around the 4 edges, so only around the perimeter, which makes cutting these kind of tricky. So I have just started completely removing that adhesive backing. You have to cut it at a corner and then rip the whole thing off. And then you can trace on the back of it. It is kind of a bumpy surface, so it's a little tricky, but it doesn't have to be perfect. Just do your best. I find it easiest to use just like a Sharpie marker and kind of sketch around your shape. And then once you've traced out as many designs as you like, go ahead and cut them out with a pair of scissors. I will say it's best to cut right on the inside of that Sharpie line because I ended up painting the front and back of this faux tin tile, and sometimes it's hard to get paint to cover up Sharpie marker because it'll bleed through. But just go ahead and cut out all of those shapes. And then I got painting, so I used just like a flat 1-inch brush and some Deco Art white chalk paint. Just kind of like brush it across the ornament and then kind of pounce or stipple up and down. That way you don't get brush strokes, you get more of like a pounced effect. And it looks more weathered in the end. So paint all of your ornaments white and then set it aside to dry. Then I came back with another flat paintbrush and some acrylic craft paint. This was Deco Art. It was just like black and like a tan color. You could use like a light brown, mix in white, whatever you want. But I just kind of put a little bit of both paint colors on a brush. Then I brushed it off on a paper towel, so I had a very, very dry brush. And then I just kind of brushed back and forth the distressed. So the nice thing about these tiles is that they have the little raised parts, and so those stick up. So those will get like more of your distressed effect and more of the paint. But you can add as much or as little paint as you like until you like get the desired look that you're going for. And like I said, I did paint both the front and the back of these ornaments, but I didn't film it because I didn't want to bore you all to death. But it's nice to have finished like front and back of your project, even if no one will ever see them. You know it's there. Go ahead and hole punch your ornaments at the top, either in the center or off to the side. Okay, so all my paint is dried and then it's time to decorate. So you can do really whatever you want here. I did kind of 2 different things. One, I'll show you on the stocking here. I pulled out some green kind of burlap ribbon that I got this fall back at Dollar Tree. And I wanted it to cover the top little trim part of the stocking, but I knew it was too thick, so I kind of folded it up. So it wasn't exactly in half, but that way it had like more visual interest. And then I hot glued it. Hot glue the ribbon in place on the front and then flip the ornament over and then hot glue it in the back as well. Be careful that you're not covering that hole punch. And what you'll want to do is punch through again that ribbon on the front side of the ornament. I don't know if I necessarily recommend using a hole puncher. I think I probably broke my hole punch on this project, but it ended up working out. You could also use like a razor blade in it, like a cutting mat. You just need to be able to feed a piece of twine through that hole so you can hang up your ornament. But then I kind of eyeballed where the hole needed to be on the back side of that ribbon. And I punched another hole and then finished hot gluing that piece of ribbon in place. So there you have a little green trim on the top of your stocking, and then string a piece of twine through and tie it with a knot so you have a hanger. Next up, I took another piece of twine and I tied it in a knot onto the twine loop that was the hanger of the ornament. And on this, I was going to put a little jingle bell on each end. So this twine tends to fray a bit, so I find it easiest to take a tiny bit of masking tape and put it on the end of the twine so it's easier to feed through the little top of the jingle bell. Especially these jingle bells, they're so small. And so you just tie one onto each end of the twine. And it's nice to maybe hang them at 2 different lengths so they're not exactly even with each other. And then I added some skinny black and white check ribbon. I hot glued it all the way around the top of the stocking. So I add like another layer at the top over that green ribbon and secured it in the back. And then I also made a bow. So by popular demand after one of my last videos, a few of you asked me to show my bow making in slow-mo, so here it is. So I start with a length of ribbon that I hold out flat, and then I make 2 little loops over my pointer fingers. So I have 2 bow ends. And then you take those bow ends and you tie them in a simple knot. Now watch the tail end on the left-hand side. As I make that knot and I pull that bow end through, that tail is going to flip over to the other side. And that's how I get my 2 tail ends to hang nicely. And then you tighten your bow and you kind of finagle, you push and pull until you get your bow loops and your tails just where you want them. And then you can finish it off by cutting the little tail ends at a 45-degree angle so everything looks nice. From there, you can just hot glue the bow in place onto the stocking. So I did the exact same thing on the 2 mittens. The only difference is when I pulled that ribbon onto the back, I kind of pulled it from both angles. So I pulled the bottom at one angle and I pulled the top down at the other angle, just because the top of the ribbon was a little bit more ridged and curved. But then as far as decorating the mitten, it was exactly the same. And then I did my little star a little bit differently, make a little twine hanger, run twine through the hole punched hole and tie it with a knot, and then make a bow with that same green ribbon. So what I did is I cut a pretty short length, fold it in half and cut at a 45-degree angle, and that's what makes those fancy little ribbon ends. So when you bunch it together, it makes a cute tiny little bow. But I wanted to add another layer to it, so I cut 3 very short lengths of the black and white check ribbon, cut at a 45-degree angle. And I normally make this version of a bow on a much larger scale, so with like 6 or 7 pieces of ribbon, but because it was so small, I went with less ribbon, and then I bunched up the green piece first and then added the 3 black and white pieces on top. It was a little tricky and it involved some finagling just because it was so small, but you could use any type of ribbon or bow that you like. And then secure it in the center with another piece of ribbon and tie it with a tight double knot to hold everything together. From there you can, kind of fluff out the bow however much or little that you want. And then just hot glue it in place right at the top of the star ornament. But there you have it, my 4 finished little Christmas tin tile ornaments.
For this craft, you'll want to start with 2 burner covers. I got these at Dollar Tree in a 2-pack. And then I had my tin tile piece that I had pre-painted, just plain white Rust-Oleum chalk paint. Trace each burner cover onto the tin tile. I just used a Sharpie marker and then cut inside that marker line so that your tin tile piece will then, 1, not have any black marker showing on it, and 2, fit nicely right inside of that burner cover. And then I just used a little bit of E6000 glue and the tiniest bit of hot glue. The E6000 gives you the long-term permanent hold, the hot glue instant hold so you can keep crafting, but you do not want to melt your tin tile piece because it's plastic, not actual tin. And then just smooth those into place so you have the 2 little pieces of your snowman body here. Then to attach the head to the body, I used a paint stick along with a wooden cube. So once again, combination of E6000 and hot glue. I secured the wooden cube in place first and then the paint stick. And then to make everything look polished and finished on the back, give everything a quick coat of white spray paint. You don't need to do it on the front, obviously, because it's already white. And then I just grabbed some black chalk paint and a small square. I cut off a piece of a clean dish sponge. And the point here is we're going to try to make this look a little bit more like enamelware. Totally optional step, but I think it just kind of adds a little bit more character to the project. And you're just going to kind of rub the black paint around the edge of the 2 burner covers. Thicker in some spots, thinner in others, just like vintage enamelware would look. Then I kind of freehanded. So I grabbed a pencil and I lightly sketched 2 eyes, a mouth, a nose, and some buttons. And then just grabbed a fine point paintbrush and some chalk paint and filled everything in. Just little ovals for the charcoal. Pretty straightforward. And then when it came time to paint the nose, I just used some orange paint. And the way I paint carrot noses is you make one larger oval, and then next to it make an oval a little bit smaller, and then next to it an oval a little bit smaller, and then like a circle for the point. So it's just continually smaller ovals. And then for arms, I just had this sprig of pine that I used for some ornaments last Christmas or the Christmas before, and just the stems remained. You could grab branches out of your yard. I liked these because the branches were a little like frosted, had some glitter on it. Just a little bit more fun. And just hot glue those in place, or you could reinforce it with E6000 right on the back there for little stick arms. And then I finished it off with a little scarf, so just some black and red check ribbon, any type of ribbon that you like. Just kind of hot glue it in place there in the center, crisscross the one end of the ribbon over the other ribbon. And then trim your tail ends. I ended up kind of folding my ribbon down so it would lay nicely. And then I grabbed 2 sprigs of that pine from the arms and I tied them together in the center, made a little bunch, just tied them in the center with some twine. Just wrap a handful of times and then secure with a simple double knot right there in the center. And then hot glue that little pine bundle right over the ribbon at the neck of the snowman. And then because we hot glued that paint stick and that wood block on the back, your snowman will stand up, or you could skip that step and use this as a door hanger. And here are all of my tin tile crafts together. I hope you enjoyed watching these Christmas projects come together. Until next time, happy making.